We all know this wave. It's one of the most iconic breaks in California, and it's known the world over for its thumping, chaotic beach break slabs. But this is a wave not created by nature alone, but is actually an accidental result of human engineering. So this is the story of how a human-made breakwater came to define generations of Southern California watermen. In 1926, a 15-year-old boy named George Rogers Jr. drowned after his small sailboat capsized in the turbulent entrance of Newport Harbor. His father, devastated at his loss, was a local civil engineer, and he used his connections to lobby the federal government to make the harbor safer for boats. At this time, Newport Harbor was pretty dangerous, with large swells and tidal surges making it extremely dangerous for boats, especially during storms and large summer south swells. Engineers studied the harbour throughout the 30s, and by 1936 they completed an extension of the harbour wall by several hundred feet. So this modification stabilised the harbour and made it much safer. But on the other side of the jetty, it actually altered how swells interacted with the coastline. Now, when long period energy from the South Pacific met Newport Beach, it first rebounded off the jetty and began rebounding back towards the incoming swell. Now, the scientific term for this is called constructive interference, which is where two swell lines converge, meet together like this, and it results in a taller, more powerful wave apex. So from all that South Pacific energy has nothing to slow it down, and it just comes straight into the wedge, is amplified by the jetty, jacks up and just unloads in feet of water. This chaos is what we now know as the wedge. By the 1950s, locals had begun to take note of what was going on at the jetty, all these strange new waves breaking off the harbour wall. While surfing in its modern sense was still developing in California, young watermen, many from nearby Newport Harbor High School, began testing the peculiar new break. But surfers weren't involved at this point. Back then, it was body surfers who pioneered the strange new break. First, the wave was nicknamed the Hook, before bodyboarders would eventually go on to call it the Wedge. Back then, traditional surfboards were heavy, big and bulky, and generally not suited to shore break slabs. So it remained purely a body surfing break for a long time. Early wedge riders like Fred Simpson, the founder of Viper Fins, were all among the first to treat it as a dedicated body surfing arena. The Wedge Preservation Society, which was a loose gang of locals, took ownership of the spot, and they sought to protect and to control the break, keeping it as a body surfing only spot. But this isn't just another localism story. You know, I know I tell a lot of those stories, and I'm sure some of the crew used informal means to protect the wedge. But these guys actually persuaded the city council in Newport to impose a legal ban on surfboards. This was known as the Black Ball Flag Rule, which came in 1993 and prohibits surfboards, skimboards, bodyboards, any flotation devices really, from using the water between the hours of 10 AM and 5 PM between May and October, which is peak season for the wedge. And this rule is still in place today. For body surfers, this was a victory, a time set aside for their art to thrive without interference. But for surfers, it became a point of controversy. But for all involved, it preserved the wedge's unique identity as a body surfing haven. And I guess whatever way you look at it, it did make it safer for everyone. If any of you guys live in this area or surf it regularly, is it the lifeguards that enforce it? Do people abide by it? What happens if you don't? Yeah, I'd love to know more down in the comments. By the late 60s, the wedge was already an iconic wave. And even in those early years, lifeguards were beginning to deal with serious injuries. Broken bones, concussions, and dislocated shoulders were routine. By the 2000s, the wedge was not only iconic in Southern California, but globally. It began drawing attention from an international audience, drawing both professional photographers and mainstream media. And publications like Surfer and even National Geographic featured dramatic images of body surfers falling into these huge closeout tubes. And from there, the break's reputation just soared. It went crazy, you know. Since then, as surf media exploded and just like the internet in general, footage and photos just came out of the place all the time during summer swells. I remember when I was a kid, when YouTube was like first a thing, I just used to watch hours and hours of just raw wedge footage. I just thought it was like the best, most entertaining thing ever. I still do watch it, to be honest, like we all do. Pros like Jamie O'Brien and bodyboarder Mike Stewart began visiting. And with so much media coverage in general, the wave became a spectacle. It also became a proving ground for surf photographers. Notables like Clark Little, before his Hawaiian fame, shot some of their earliest career-defining images here. And over the decades of wave riding history at the Wedge, there have been several notable swells, including the 2014 Hurricane Mari swell, when, you know, we just saw the crazy footage of just like 10 to 12 foot Hawaiian style like wedges just breaking on the shore. Crazy, crazy waves. You know, millions of people watch that footage online, and now every time it breaks, it just becomes this chaotic spectacle. The Newport Beach Fire Department's Marine Operations Division staffs lifeguards year-round, with additional personnel during summer swell season. During south swells, as many as 8 rescue swimmers are on standby, and their role extends beyond rescue. They actually often act as more crowd control rather than purely lifeguards. During these swells, they manage hundreds, if not thousands, of spectators on the beach and just are there to prevent stupidity, basically. Lifeguards record an average of 30 to 40 rescues per year at the Wedge, though most are minor. But still, severe injuries occur regularly, particularly during hurricane swells. So nearly 90 years after George Rogers Sr. petitioned for the jetty to be extended, the break created by accident in his son's memory remains one of the most dangerous, deadliest, and interesting waves in the surfing world. The Wedge continues to define a corner of Southern California surf culture, where a dedicated crew of local body surfers and bodyboarders, and more so now than ever, surfers, continue to challenge themselves at one of the most interesting waves in the world. If you've got any stories from surfing the Wedge, or you've got any more context, info to add to this video, please comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out and helps me tell more stories like this and tell them better. For now, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you in the next episode.